Welcome to Teen Talk, Navigating Teen Challenging Behaviour. I am Pei-I. I'm a parenting and teen challenging behaviour specialist at Rainbow Parenting Practice. Over the last 30 years, I've worked with children, teenagers, and then families with various complex needs across different settings. But it is my personal story, being a troubled teenager, that led me to the creation of my innovative parenting method, Thriving Together Parenting Method. It can help you and your team to have a more loving, respect-driven relationship and the happiness and harmony in your family home in 90 days. No matter what challenging behavior it is, how challenging it has been, and for however long your family has been in a difficult place. Many families came to me when they were in crisis or at breaking point. My TTP method is the secret to their transformative family lives. It can be yours too. I am thrilled for you to be here, and that possibly means you are a successful but stressed out parent who is managing a very demanding job but struggling to know what to do and how to help your troubled teen who is stuck in patterns of challenging behavior. You're fed up with trying everything but nothing works. You're looking for solutions yesterday and are determined to do whatever it takes to help your teen and family thrive. At Teen Talk, Navigating Teen Challenging Behavior, I will share all the insights I've learned from working with families and their teenagers over the years. I will not hold back. Let's dive in. I will do the Hi, everybody.
Hi.
It's Pei-I, It's Pei-I and Belle again. Welcome to Teen Talk. This is the podcast where we talk about everything teenage related, everything parenting related to parenting teenagers, and all the topics around family relationship, really. So welcome to our show. If this is the first time you're listening to it, you know what? Our introduction is different every single time.
I know.
But I hate scripting. Not that I hate scripting. That's so hypocritical because I teach the parents to script when they're struggling with their teenager. I suppose I like to be authentic and speak about whatever comes to my mind. Right. So if this is the first time you're tuning in, we have a set of cards as usual, and Belle and I are just gonna pick a card, talk about the topic, and then by the end of the show, we will have a curiosity for the parents or professionals or the teenagers to ponder on. And we try to veer away from giving parents strategies, or that's because this is my disclaimer, I have to say it. That's because when we're giving strategies, there is always a family context to think about. And every family circumstances are very different. So it's really important for you to self-assess when you're tuning into listening to us. Think about if the things we speak about apply to your family, or the general ideas and strategies and curiosity we're sharing with you if fit into your family unique circumstances. And if they're not, please simply move on, just as you're listening to radio, and then have a laugh and move on. Right? Don't use the strategies. That's very important. Right? Shall we get on, Belle? Right.
Yeah.
Right. So shuffle, 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 shuffle. Why don't you tell me to stop? Okay. Actually, it really is this one. Let me see. You can see this one. This one is an interesting topic. I don't think it's just for teenagers, it's for adults too, for parents too. So this one is addicted to my phone.
Okay.
Addicted to my phone.
Okay. Well, it's interesting to see that's for adults as well, because I think a lot of adults just say that it's teenagers that are addicted to their phones. So.
But it is a big worry for the parents though, because the one thing I hear very often is my teenage children are addicted to their phone, and they just want to be, on the chat all the time with their friends, or playing games, or listening to music. I suppose the phone, the technology is too advanced now. You can do so many things on the phone. You don't necessarily have to watch telly. Even you can watch Netflix on your phone. So I can see why they are worried. But what about from a teenager's perspective about addicted to my phone? Is this something?
Well, it's funny because it's something I've been thinking about a lot recently, and I've talked to me and my friends have talked about, because it's such a weird, like, everyone that I've spoken to, I think most people in our generation all agree we would rather have just never had the option to have phones. Like phones didn't exist. Like we all socialized physically, and like, you know, I don't know. It's just like something that we just all like, I guess, idealized or whatever. Maybe it's, you know, maybe what having phones is there. But we all are still addicted to our phones, and we all still can't get off our phones, even though we're like, this isn't good for us. And like, I've been through phases where I've been very addicted to my phone, and it's held me back in schoolwork, it's held me back in procrastination for daily tasks, it's held me back in lots and lots of different ways. And luckily, I feel like my generation, at least, is at the age where phones came at the sort of development where we can now look at social media and stuff, and we can think, okay, that's, you know, we can differentiate what to take from it and what not. But we've noticed with the younger generations, like people who are in S1, S2, S3 for Scottish years, right now are known to be extremely unsociable, like extremely like hard to teach. Like they don't have any manners and stuff, and it's because of social, like because of addiction to phones. It's like phones is controlling everything right now. It's so weird.
Are you allowed to take your phone to school?
Mm-hmm.
You're all
Yeah.
right, but you're
Yeah,
just not
you're
allowed
not
to
allowed to
use
go in
it.
them in lessons and stuff, but you still, the older you get, you can have more kind of independence to do that because they trust you to do your work. But you can't just sit on your phone or anything.
You're like
You can bring
secretly,
it to school because you kind of
secretly.
have to get to and from school. You know.
I can definitely feel the dilemma. Is it dilemma? I can never say the word. Because like it's good to because in my era, Belle, there was no phone. Do you know, our phone, the time was this size. Do you know,
Mm-hmm.
those really King Kong size mobile phone. And then there was no internet, no nothing, you know, and then it was really inconvenient in so many different ways. But at the same time, like you say, there's so many privileges because having no phone, you can go out. I can go out to the outdoor. I can just go out with my friends and all these things. So I suppose it's a different era, isn't it? And then right now we are saying we're addicted, the teenagers, and we'll come to the parents and adults later. We're addicted to the phone, but who knows 30 years later what it would be like.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And now
Yeah.
it's like I don't understand the 4G and 5G thing. Do you understand?
No.
No, neither do I, but similarly,
No.
like it just getting, you know, more advanced and then more advanced, and then everything is linked. Like, and I have an
Mm-hmm.
iPhone, but then everything is linked to my Mac, linked to and the clouds and
Yeah.
everything. So it's really hard not to.
It's really hard not to like sort of run your life by it. And like I find like I wouldn't say, I mean, I've definitely been less addicted to my phone than I am right now, but I wouldn't say I'm addicted to my phone. But
Mm-mm.
like even then, like between tasks in the day or like just between doing things, I'll just sit on my phone for a bit, like, and I just think it's fine, but it is quite, you know, I could just, what if I just did it and I didn't procrastinate by doing that, and like I don't know, it
So
just
what do
it
you
might,
do? So what do you do when you're on your phone?
well, I'll go on
What is it about the
TikTok.
phone?
I'll message my friends. I'll go on TikTok, Instagram, just like stuff like that, like scrolling,
Mm-mm.
mostly messaging, FaceTime. I don't know, stuff like that. But
Mm.
I don't think messaging friends and FaceTime and calling is like the bad part. But I think the TikTok and the Instagram scrolling is like the part where I'm like, sometimes I find it really funny and I enjoy it, and sometimes I'm just doing it to procrastinate, and I'm like, what am I even doing right now? Like this is literally giving me
Mm-mm.
like nothing.
Mm-mm.
So
I totally feel your pain because, like,
yeah.
most thinking about phone is like for social, you know, like it's which really important. And then my parents, my family's in Taiwan without the phone, without the internet, and we're speaking to them FaceTime. I think they will struggle big time. If I have to
Mm-hmm.
stay on my laptop or
Mm-hmm.
like the olden days, there was seriously, I still remember olden days, there were no like no, not as like when I came here 20 years ago, it wasn't as advanced as it now. So I
Mm-hmm.
still have to use those dial phone to phone my parents
Mm-hmm.
when I was here, and there was
Mm-hmm.
no like WhatsApp or this things.
Mm-hmm.
But like time moved on, it has made it so easy to be able to speak to them to every day, to phone them every day, so I can see
Mm-hmm.
that part of the social life is important for everybody. Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Also, as a teenager, you want to stay connected with your friends. You want to know what your
Yeah.
friends are doing. You want
Mm-hmm.
to know what we are wearing tomorrow. tomorrow for the
Yeah.
party, you
No,
know.
I'm exactly like I love being able to message my friends and FaceTime my friends, and it's like really helped me out. But at the same time, like I always think we weren't meant to be so easily in contact with each other. Like we weren't meant to be able to just message all the time, all day if we wanted to. Like we weren't really meant to be able to do that. So there is
But
like an
don't you
element
think?
around like with being addicted to phones and stuff. Like me and my friends have talked about it, like I get there's positives and negatives. Like I don't think I'm like completely against phones, but we do sort of fantasize about like imagine we didn't have phones, like the world would be completely different, and like we'd have to call someone and get their number to speak to them and go into their house and see if they're in, or like I don't know, it just seems so much
Yeah,
more.
flip through yellow pages rather than
Yeah,
going on the internet to find
yeah,
something.
people made so much more effort with each other, I feel like, and now it's just so that you can just hide behind your phone. And like I was watching a video the other day, it's kind of unrelated, but there's a guy that it's kind of deep. I won't get into it, but it's a guy that goes to this forest in Japan. It's like a known forest, and he sort of looks for it. It's quite a shame. It's like a there's a lot of people commit suicide in the forest and things. It's quite famous, but he says he's like we a big cause of that and a big cause of all of this isolation and the rise in suicide, which didn't really happen in the olden days. Suicide didn't really happen as much at all. And he's saying like he was saying we weren't meant to be able to just hide behind our phones. Like there was no way you could get through life by just staying in the house or not speaking to people. Like you used to have to speak to people, and used to have human contact. But now, because it's an option, human contact, you can completely work from home and live at home and order from your house. And like, so no wonder people are becoming more depressed, because it's like they're not getting as much human contact.
Yeah, and feeling isolated, like,
Yeah,
you can like order food delivery. You don't necessarily
yeah.
see anybody.
You don't have
Yeah,
to. You literally don't have to have human contact anymore.
exactly.
And
And
so,
when those DPD thing, or the delivery thing, you can actually ask them to leave it at the front door, back door, and safe place. So like you say, you don't really need to have any contact.
no, literally, you don't have to have any. And like, even even if someone is trying to and it's just not working out for them, or if they're in like they're working all the time, or I don't know, it's like you used to have to, you don't know, you just used to have to speak to people every single day, and on the bus you'd talk to people and people wouldn't be on their phones. But now on the bus everyone's, which I do when I enjoy listening to music and stuff on the bus. But you do think like I don't prefer either, but it is weird to think that you used to on the bus, no one would have their AirPods in, no one would be listening to music. So
Mm,
people would naturally speak more and
mm,
you'd talk more, and like I don't know, it's just a completely different world. And I think like we're slowly starting to get to the age where we're monitoring it, like in reasonable. But the everyone that I've spoken to is worried about the generation beneath me, because like from what we've seen and heard, and from my friends' younger siblings, like, everyone's quite worried.
I
So
think it really requires a lot of self-discipline, isn't it? Because I was thinking about what you said earlier on. We shouldn't be able to take somebody or contact somebody so quickly or whenever you
yeah,
want to. But then at the same
or
time,
you have to call them and make that effort, sort of thing.
yeah, but then at the end of the day, is it not the other party to decide whether when they want to respond or if they want to respond,
Yeah,
how
yeah,
they want to respond? So I
yeah.
think it takes, but it takes a lot of self-discipline. Like when somebody texts me, right? Unless I'm super busy that I have no
Mm-hmm.
time to respond.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, if I see the message, I feel so obliged to respond straight away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that is probably the cultural part. It's
Yeah.
like, don't be rude. When people text you,
Mm-hmm.
don't keep them waiting for hours. But that is how I was brought up. That's the belief,
Mm-hmm.
system is that when you don't text back, you're being rude. But other circumstances where I'm being really busy, I forget about being rude. I'm just like, I don't have time
Mm-hmm.
to text back. Let me text them back later. Blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, but I do think it's something that can be practiced, and in terms of a self-discipline, people will be all right. And if you don't respond, you'll be okay. And you can also hold the urges to text, but I do get the addiction to TikTok and Instagram or Facebook.
It's designed to be addictive, and it's like I've like I it's a good and a bad thing, TikTok and Instagram. And it's like I do like I've loved some parts of it, and I love being able to post and see my friends' posts and like, I don't know, like some funny videos and things. But like some things on TikTok and Instagram are just so like just hard to just there's a phrase that's going about in the moment called brain rot. And it's not a phrase, but people are saying lots of posts are like brain rot. Like they're just complete advertisements or completely just so social media and like it's becoming, I guess people are starting to sort of differentiate it, but it is just
Well, that's a new word I learned today. Say that again. A brain roll.
brain rot.
Rot. Oh, like rot as rot.
Brain rot, yeah.
Ah, that's interesting. But you know what? Like myself, I speak for myself. I get addicted to the clips on Facebook. Do you know how you
Yeah.
before you go to bed, it's like, oh, let me just check the photos or
Yeah.
whatever. You know, I have 3 dogs.
Yeah.
So every time I see a dog thing I want to watch, and it's like I'll just watch a couple, and then it's like, huh? 2 hours later,
Yeah.
how did it just go past? Like
Yeah.
really terrible. It's even I
Yeah.
found that quite scary. You know, it's just another one. But I think
No, exactly. Because
yeah,
you wake up and you think, okay, I want to do this today, get this done. And then you'll blink and it's been 2 hours and you've just been on your phone.
I
And it's
know.
like it
But
is scary. It really is scary.
it is, and I don't know the evidence of this. Maybe I need to look into this, but I do know it does affect your sleep because the screen time, your
Yeah.
brain wave is still up there, and then
Yeah.
all of these things. So I can see why parents are worried about their teenage children being addicted to the phone. So say if we have a group of teenagers here with us, right? If we ask them if they think they are addicted to the phone, if it's a concern for them, what do you think they will say?
I think they'd be, so what age do you mean?
Just secondary teenage children, 13 to 17, 11 to 17.
I don't think it would be like a deep concern. I think it would be a concern in terms of procrastination or school or getting work done sort of thing. Because that's the main issue I think with phones is like you have, you know, if I didn't have a phone, I would probably just end up, you know, I'd be bored, I'd be reluctant, but then I'd eventually do the work because I'd have to have nothing else to do. But then with your phone, you have a million other things to entertain you. It's like, why would you? Like, it's so. I think that if you had teenagers in a room, I think they would say they'd be worried about how it's holding them back in school, or you know how it's distracting them. And the main thing I've heard everyone say that I've ever talked to is their attention span has gone downhill. My attention span's awful. Everyone I know's attention span is mostly awful, and it's because of social media, I think. Because now there's TikTok and stuff, it's like 15-minute videos, and like sometimes, I mean, I went through a phase where I found it hard to watch like 30-minute YouTube videos because I was so used to this 15-second like scroll. So I think attention span, schoolwork, stuff like that. And it's not just like, oh, if you go on your phone, you're not going to do well in school. It's like if you can manage your time, and if you just know that you don't just sit on your phone for hours and you can't get off it, as long as you can actually put your phone down and get your work done, it's fine. But yeah, I can't do that sometimes.
Okay, so my thinking will be around probably like, yeah, not too worried about their addiction. They'll be thinking it's a need, because everybody has one. So I have a need to study, and even like what does Bell, like a lot of school work is on internet, and you will either need to use your phone or your iPad.
Yeah, no, all of my that's the thing. Like, oh, you can't escape it. All of my schoolwork is on iPad.
Yeah, you really can't escape it. So it's like, what can you do? But then I got really curious about the geography set geographical. What's the word? Geography. Geographical. I don't know. How do I say the word?
Geographical.
No, yeah, geographical. Sorry about that. Oh my God. What the? Right. Like there might be countries and places that teenagers do not even have access to a phone.
Yeah.
Like not even a mobile phone, like possibly not a phone. What do you think those teenagers would say?
Would say about what?
About us, about the teenagers who have access to phones and to actually when you have a phone, when you have internet, it's like you're having access to the whole world.
Yeah.
Like you get all the news, you get,
I
whatever.
think I think it's definitely a privilege.
Mm.
I think you do have access to all the information you could ever want, literally within seconds. And I think if you came from somewhere where they don't have phones, your use of if you were to get a phone, you would use it for the right reasons and you would use it to expand your knowledge and you'd be able to differentiate things more. But I think when you've grown up with a phone, well, not necessarily with a phone, but within our generation, like I mean, I didn't have like a smartphone until like S1, I think, or late P7, which is like fair. I mean, I had like a Nokia before that, which was fine, so I could text my friends on it. But I mean, like even then, I still go on YouTube and I still watch YouTube videos and stuff. I think when you grow up within that, you still like you don't. I mean, I don't ever really just search up informational things and like expand my knowledge or like catch up with politics, like which is probably what phones should be used for. But you usually just use it for other stuff. I don't know, but
I know.
yeah.
But you know what? I do believe really there are teenage children who don't have access to phones. And I know one of them. I just happen to know what is actually my nephew. He's about 15 years old and he's actually 11, 12, 13, maybe 14, like in S3. He is absolutely not interested in having a mobile phone whatsoever. He's really not. Like my brother is
Yeah.
like, you have a phone? He's like, no, bye.
Really?
No,
What's his why? What's he said about it?
he's just not interested. He loves going out, like walk the dogs. Oh, but he likes play video games. Like, the laptop thing is his one, so otherwise he's not really bothered with having a phone. Sometimes you can ask him to carry a phone. It's like, oh, please don't ask me to have a phone.
Yeah, wow.
Say like sometimes when he finished school, he needs to finish school a bit later. And most of the kids will have a phone to phone their parents. I say, I'm just gonna come home a little bit later because the class has been delayed or there's an after school activity. He actually has to go to the school office to borrow a phone from the teacher to phone my brother.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, you're
That is like,
amazing.
yeah, it is annoying at that point. Like, because you do use your phone for, I mean, I use my phone to keep in contact with my granny who lives ages away, and I FaceTime her and everything all the time.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have a phone, I couldn't do that. And to keep in contact with my dad and my mum and all these things. So it's definitely like, I do think it is a privilege having a phone. I do think it is really good.
So, but
I don't think, I think phones are good. I think it's a great idea. I think they're so new to us right now. They don't feel like they are for me, but I guess looking at the actual timescale, they are new to our world right now. And I think we've just not learned to really monitor them and limit them to how we use them. Like we've gone too far the other way where we're just like they're completely controlling everything. Whereas they should be used for usefulness and
absolutely. Let me ask you a question before we move on to the parents' side. How well do you think teenagers these days understand the risk of being on the phone? I mean, not the phone itself, but
social media.
What they can access from their phone.
Okay.
Or what they can be exposed to.
Yeah, I actually do think everyone is fully aware. I mean, we have been exposed to too much as a young generation. I mean, I remember when I was younger, people would send about you'd see more of the boys did this, but people would send about videos that were genuinely traumatizing, like from of people being like killed and stuff, like literally that people had access to. And like I don't know, and it's just like so we do know all the risks. We get taught it in school quite thoroughly. I mean, literally, it did get boring to a point. Like we got taught it every single PSC lesson, but it was good. I mean, it's useful. I think everyone's aware. I think when you're like 13, you're not as, but you still are aware. But it's just so then like, it's almost impossible to just not have a phone. Like, I mean, in an ideal situation, no one, that's why everyone says, oh, I wish no one had phones. But it's not like, oh, I wish I didn't have a phone.
Mm.
Because then you are excluded and isolated from majority of, you know, making plans and all these sorts of stuff, and like meeting new people, and like, you know, all this sort of, you like, it is a massive part of everyone's life now. So yeah, I think people are aware of the risks. I think
We think teenage children are aware, the teenagers are aware of the risk of what they can
yes.
access to or exposed to online. Then my next question is, do you think, how well do you think they will be able to manage the risks that they're exposed to potentially?
I don't know. I mean, it is,
So say,
all
right,
you can really do is click off or slide off or ignore it or press. I mean, sometimes if you see a TikTok or something or an Instagram that you really didn't like, or it just, even if it just wasn't sort of, even if you're just trying to, I mean, I've done that with like videos that are quite toxic, like sort of spreading bad things or whatever,
mm,
that you press not interested so it doesn't come up again.
mm,
That's, I mean, that's really the extent of it. I mean, if it is, there is like, even with like cyberbullying and stuff, like to a certain extent, you can block or switch off your phone or
mm,
slide off it or delete the app.
mm,
Like
mm.
there are ways around it.
Yeah, but I suppose my curiosity is how well can they do this? So
Yeah, I wouldn't
because
say very thoroughly, but like you can do it, but it's
mm,
not like you can't really sort out the problem. You can just avoid it, props.
because I'm thinking about like you say, one thing is the cyberbullying. When you're being bullied, yes, you can like switch that off, but the emotional impact will still be there, right? Then if I don't know if every single parent put on parental control for their teenage children's phone, but they can also access to porn, you know, or people could be like, we spoke about this before, like sending them messages and sending me inappropriate, sending me your naked picture or sending them inappropriate picture themselves. So I'm just curious, and I suppose I'm thinking from
Yeah,
that
well,
perspective.
we get taught about stuff like that in PSE,
Mhm,
and you get shown these videos, like scenario videos, where a girl will send a boy something, and he
mhm,
sends it about, and all these sorts of things. And it is, you know, it's the message of it is don't do it,
mhm,
and if you get one, don't send it about, which
mhm.
is, yeah, completely reasonable for both sides, like, of it. But it doesn't prevent it, because like at the end of the day, teenagers will still be teenagers. Like even before phones,
Mhm.
back in like the 80s and
Mhm.
70s, boys still did stuff like that, where they'd take photos, or, you
Mhm.
know, would just be disrespectful, and like, you know, girls would want to do that for the attention. Like that is to the certain extent why I'm like, I mean, there's all these issues right now, and I think a lot of older generations are like, that's so bad, like all this is, you know, get off your phone, it's dangerous, all this sort of stuff. But it's like everything, this has all happened in the past in a different form, and right now it's just being used in the terms of social media and
Mhm.
digitally, whereas before it was in person. So it is like, we've teenagers have always done stuff like that. um
Yeah,
but yeah.
and I suppose that's the most important part, isn't it? Is when you are aware of the risk, how well can you manage that? Because we cannot avoid or prevent having a phone. You know, somebody will have a phone, you will have internet, you will need to work or you will need to study. So it's not possible. It's impossible not to not have a phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think this may be the reason, more likely to be the reasons why parents are worried about their teenage children being addicted to the phone, and may not necessarily the phone itself, you know, in terms of screen time. It's like you said, the Instagram, the TikTok, you know, the risk of being online, what they've been exposed to, or
Mm-hmm.
could there be cyberbullying? Could there be, you know,
Mm-hmm.
grooming and all these things? So that's where
Yeah.
I got curious about. So I'm
Yeah.
curious to think, what do you think? But that's just my thinking and my observation working with
Yeah.
the teenagers and the families. What do you think from a teenager's perspective? What do you think the parents are worried about?
I think if you're a parent, you'd be worried about your lack of control for what your teenager's seeing or being exposed to, especially at a younger age.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can only control that to a certain extent. But I think the best thing to do would be to, first of all, not give them an. I really disagree. I don't just whatever, like people who have their own decisions, but I really disagree with people who give their like 5-year-olds iPads. And like I had an iPad when I was younger, but I've seen them now and they just sit on their iPads all day, every day. They can't sit at meals without an iPad. They can't socialize without an iPad. They can't go places without an iPad. And it's like, that isn't good. So I don't know. I would give them to an age where they can form their own, they can limit themselves somewhat. But I mean, yeah, parents would be worried about the child being addicted and it taken away from their procrastination and their child safety on the internet, which I think is fair enough.
Yeah, because I if I was a parent, I would be worried too. And
yeah,
and like you said, that bit of a lack of control, I think it's really a lot of pressure and a lot of pressure on the teenagers to have that control to go, actually 10 minutes on social media is enough. Let me come off. I can't even do it myself when I have the intention to go, right. You're only watching 2 clips, then you'll come off, and then 2 hours later. Not alone a teenager who's still growing, who is still, trying to figure things out. I think that's a lot of pressure to ask them. So I suppose that's one thing the parents can think about, isn't it? If you're worried about your teenage children's addiction to the phone, it's thinking about how can you what do you put boundaries around that? Is how often can you use the phone, for how long, for what purpose? And I suppose it's a good discipline, isn't it? Where you're telling your teenage children these sites are not accessible. It's a no area. Then you're teaching your children these are the boundaries. You can't cross that. And you're online for an hour to do your homework. That's fine. You know what? I want you to have chat with your friends. I want you to socialize, because what we need to remember is there are still good parts from having access to phone and having access to social media, because it gives us the connection we need.
There definitely is.
And it could be like an inspiration as well when we read somebody else's story, or when I remember this January when I first came back from visiting my family, we had Taiwan as a presidential election. I was able to watch it online to see who was elected, and that was important for me. So I think there's still a lot of benefits of accessing social media or the phone.
Yeah, I love my phone. I love what I can do with it. I love being able to contact my friends. I love being able to speak to friends that I can't see as much. Like, I do love my phone. I think it's just hard to control your addiction to it sometimes.
So then the support from the parents will be really helpful. And then the other part I was coming to is, how do we help your teenagers manage the risk? I think understanding aware.
So I was thinking about that. I feel like the best way to help your teenager sort of manage the risk of being on your phone is to first kind of get a good understanding of how teenagers use their phone. Like, don't just say, like, don't go on social media, don't do this, because like you're a teenager, like that is what you do when you're a teenager. But to get an understanding of it, so that if your teenager comes to you and tells you about something or something they've seen or whatever, like, you can understand it. But also, just to like, I don't know, just to like talk to your teenagers about it, like when they're younger and stuff. Like, just say, like, be careful. Like, show that you trust and respect them to make these decisions, and when they see something that's not right, like, they won't engage with it, and they can separate what they consume from what they don't, and whatever. And just to teach them those skills and practice them yourself as well.
I think they're really good suggestions, like talking.
And to also not, to go out for meals and dinners and do things without phones, sort of thing, as well.
Yeah, they can have a phone sabbatical. Well, that's really helpful, because I think, like, talking to your teenagers, understanding how your teenagers are using the phone is really important. Because your teenagers could tell you all sorts, but I think asking them, like you say, talking to them, how are you using the phone, what sort of things you're doing, is really important. And I think the parents, you'll be really helpful for the parents to also know what social platforms are my teenagers on. Even when you're playing online video games, they're still online people. You know, it's still a form of social media. So I think it's really important for parents to understand. Actually, so there's different social medias here, the functionality of it. How does my teenager access this, and what is she doing or he doing? What are they doing on the social media? And like you say, practice and the skills. How do you manage those risks? And I think this is the most challenging and difficult part. So I don't know if you remember, and I say this to the parents all the time. You need to rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. So I was doing this with my youngest nephew when I was home. He was only 7 years old, and he loves to speak to strangers. Seriously, I don't know why. He's just so friendly. We're walking dogs. He would just like stop to speak to this granny for 20 minutes. I'm like, how? All right. So then I'll start thinking, right. And I'm not saying this granny is a bad person, but you always need to have that awareness to know if, you know, this is, if you assess someone is good or someone could be a bad person, given he's so tiny and he's only 7. So then I start to rehearse different scenarios with him and what is safe, what is unsafe. And that's something parents can easily do with their teenage children in terms of like, you know, what do you do if someone asks you to send them a naked picture? What do you do when someone sends you a naked picture? What do you do if you come across a porn site and see
that's a good
you're
idea.
not meant to see? Right. I think this is really important. And even when we are doing that with our teenage children, there are still risks, because we're not saying that you do this won't happen, right? But what we're saying, if you do more practice, it's more likely your teenage children will have the skills and knowledge and the awareness to know how to manage those risks. And there'll be times like, you know, I think I talked about this, like when we have earthquake drill in Taiwan, because there's so many earthquakes. So we need to hide under certain places. We need to know where the evacuation action route is, or all these things. But I always we've been rehearsed throughout my whole entire life, you know, even when I was working in Taiwan. But there are times when like earthquake really hit, and then when you're in the building, like in the 10th floor, you really panic. You're thinking, where do I hide? They tell you to hide somewhere, but where do you hide on the 10th floor? You know, and even those moments being rehearsed for 20 years, you still panic. I still panic. I'm still thinking, oh my God, how am I going to manage these things? Am I just going to be buried in this building? So not alone a teenager who is still growing, who's 13, 14, 15, although they have the knowledge and to thinking about, right, if somebody tell me to do this, don't do it. But the other side, the other people could be very, very, very smart, you know, and then slowly lure you in, sweet talk you, and all these things. So it's really,
that's how it works.
It's easily done, you know. So then I suppose it comes back to how good the relationship you have with your teenage children, isn't it? If you have a good relationship with your teenage
that's
children,
why I was saying, like, make sure you get an understanding of how they're using their phone and how teenagers use their phone, because you can't just say, you know, from your perspective and adult's perspective, because teenagers use their phones a lot and they use it to text, and you know, there's different trends and different whatever. Like, if you have an understanding of that, then your teenager will feel that you'll understand situations more if they talk to you about it. So
yeah, for you, when you're in a good place with them, they want to share with you, you know, because they think my mom and dad so cool, they're listening to me and they will understand. So I think that's really, really important for parents to think about it. Okay, I do have one last curiosity though, bit. Or a question really, which I hear very often for the parents or the teenagers say, so my parents ask me not to go on the phone so much, but they're so hypocritical. They're on the phone all the time themselves. So what do you think about this?
I think
do you think the parents should model it and just not being on it, or what?
I think it's mostly right, because parents do go on their phones a lot. I think they just use them differently. I think that's where it comes from. It's like parents use Facebook and WhatsApp and stuff like that, whereas teenagers use TikTok and Instagram and Snapchat and stuff like that. So it's just different. Like, and I guess I don't know. I don't really understand that. I think teenagers, I think adults can be hypocritical with stuff like that. I genuinely do think they can. I think also because there's this massive stigma with my generation that we all are all just addicted to our phones and we don't have any social life skills or maturity or anything, which isn't true. So yeah, I think there can be a lot of sort of just assumptions, but yeah, adults definitely do go on their phones a lot.
Yeah, we do. We do, because we do use the phone, right? And then But I suppose, and I think you said that really well, it's like there's a lot of assumptions on teenagers, you know, and there's a myth about them. They're all this, you know, they don't have any motivation. The only thing they want to do is on their phone, which is not true at all. I've seen some teenagers are so inspiring. They know what they want to do when they grow up. They volunteer and they, you know, all these things. So that's definitely a myth. However, though, I'm just thinking if you were a parent yourself one day, and if your teenager is like, you told me not to be on the phone for 2 hours, but yourself is on the phone for 2 hours, how would you manage that?
I would say, yeah, you're right. Like, I should be managing that more. We'll both do it together. Like,
Mm.
just be admitting it. Like, yeah, I need to work on it as well. It's hard, I guess. Like,
yeah, and I
I
suppose,
don't know.
yeah,
I don't. Maybe that's not the best way to deal with it,
but it's
yeah.
okay though, because you're using your imagination and to mentalize what would you say. And the
Yeah.
reason I'm putting this out because there are different ways you can look at it. You know, because the teenagers, and you're right, you know, adults can be very hypocritical sometimes, like don't do this and don't do this. And it's really important for us to model that. But at the same time, I think you're also in a different life stage, you know, and I've seen parents thinking,
No, I agree.
the parents will be thinking, right, so I'm telling them to be on the phone for only an hour, so I'm going to be an hour and then go, but I'm suffering. I need to work. I need to do this. I need to do, but I don't have my phone to do it, you know,
Well,
so.
it's different if it's being used for work
Mm,
or calls or
mm,
stuff like that. But
mm,
I think when I'm thinking, oh, don't go on your phone, I'm thinking social media. I'm thinking
mm,
like games or texting rather.
mm. I suppose it's
So
for parents to think about, isn't it? Because
yeah.
a thing like the parents come across very often. It's like my teenager is saying this. Does that mean I have to not do this to set myself, like set as a model? And I'll be thinking, but this is my thinking, right? I said they'll be thinking, if that's the case, maybe your teenagers should also pay for the bills, you know, or doing this if you were thinking about equality. But the thing is, when you're in a family home, in the family, your roles and responsibilities are different. You're at a different life stage. Right. So I think that's something for parents to think about. If this is
Yeah.
a challenge or a question, like your teenagers come and they will often challenge that. So why can you, but I can't? It's true.
Yeah.
No. Right. So we've been speaking a lot about the phone, about the access to the phone. We also spoke about how some of the teenagers in different countries might not have access to a phone, so it's actually privilege. And we also spoke about having a phone is not a bad thing. You know, there are actually really good things coming from having a phone, having access to the world. And it's about how we manage the risk and how we teach our teenage children manage the risk. And we also understand why parents are worried about that. And Bale has suggested some really wonderful ideas in thinking, you know, talking to your children, understanding what your teenage children, how they use the phone, you know, practice the skills in terms of rehearsing unsafe situation and how they can manage that. And most importantly is to make sure you have a good relationship with your teenage children, so they are more likely to come and share with you, go, this happened, you know, otherwise they will just hide from you. So on this note, we're going to end the show, but before we end, we're going to have some curiosities for our audience. So what are you thinking today, Belle?
I'd be curious for the teenagers to think about how their phone is affecting them in terms of their like everyday and like what it's holding them back from, and also what parts they enjoy about using their phone and feel that is good for them. So to try to like maybe change how they're using it, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
Not a very good one, but
No.
I can think of.
No, it's all good. I suppose my one is probably around the cat is called Addicted to My Phone. It's an addiction to the phone. So maybe it's for both parents and teenagers is to, this is actually maybe too difficult to do. I was gonna ask them to interview addiction to the phone. Just have a conversation with the addiction to the phone. So if he's a person, what would he say? What would she say? Being around, you know, and
Yeah, I guess that could work.
what's the impact of,
Definitely out there, but it could work.
yeah, what's the impact of this addiction being to the phone being around have on the teenagers and have on the parents, or on their relationship, or on the family dynamics, or on their mental health. So I think that'll be a really interesting conversation to have with the addiction to the phone, and see it as a person, But it's a bit difficult to do. There's something, it's a technique we use. So, but parents can try it and be curious about, you can still be curious about what would this addiction to the phone say if he's around or she's around. What would he want to say to me? Or what is he asking my teenager children to do? It's like, don't do your homework. It's okay. Keep scrolling. This is a lot of fun. You need this. You work too hard. It can relax. Your mom is doing this too, right?
Yeah.
So this voice could be that addiction to the phone, telling your teenager to do these things. So that might give you some ideas as to how you can intervene. So that is just one thing that we're thinking about. Okay, I hope this has been helpful, audience, and thank you for tuning in. We will see you in the next episode, and don't forget to subscribe to the show so more parents can find our show organically on social media. And if you want more resources, you go to rainbowparentingpractice.com. There's a lot of free resources there too. Right, we'll see you then the next episode.
Bye.
Thank you to everyone at home or on the go for listening. If you find this show helpful, please hit that follow or subscribe button. It does wonders for the show, so more people can find Teen Talk, navigating teen challenging behavior organically. If you have any questions about anything we've talked about, please drop me a line at pei@teentalkpod.com. That is PEI-I@teentalkpod.com. I read every email I get. Whether that's an episode idea, a guest recommendation, or just a simple note about how the show has impacted you. I'd love to hear from you. I am Pei-I, and I'll see you on the next episode.